Hello and welcome to the News9 Plus show on the world's first news and current affairs OTT platform, News9 Plus. Laying down your life for the country is the supreme sacrifice a soldier can make. This cannot be compensated in monetary terms, but the family members of a fallen soldier need support of the country and people, and it's our duty to ensure that their future is secured. But in recent times, controversy has broken out on who will receive benefits. The cases reported are typically where the wife of a fallen soldier has differences with the parents or siblings. A soldier's parents or guardians are listed as NOK or next of kin when he enlists in the army. According to army rules, when a cadet or officer gets married, their spouse's name is listed as their NOK rather than their parents. Now, the rules say that the ex gratia amount is given to the NOK if something happens to an individual while in service. In this context, conflicts are emerging within families and questions are being raised on whether the benefits should be given to a sole member or shared among family members. Will the government try to find a middle path to ensure that life laid down in the service of the nation doesn't strike a discord within the family of the fallen soldier? Joining me to discuss this evening are Lieutenant General Rakesh Sharma, former Adjutant General of the Indian Army, and my colleague in the studio here with me, Flight Lieutenant Samar Singh, who served in the Indian Air Force with distinction. He's a Kargil veteran. He joins me this evening. Gentlemen, welcome to the News9 Plus show. General Sharma, over to you first. A very contentious issue here, next of kin. Is there a requirement to modify the NOK rules as they're laid down in the Army Act?
First, I salute the valor of Captain Anshuman, who laid down, Dr. Anshuman also, who laid down his life, the glacier, such kind of valor that we have seen. And heartiest condolences to the families, the parents and the wife who have to suffer the life thereafter. Now, to ask that question, I think this is not the first officer who has laid down his life and the battle casualty. We have this round the year for the last 30 years. So to say that there are no systems existing and the government should interfere and for every single issue we create a controversy, I think it's not right. We should be prudent in handling such issues, especially in relationship in such kind of relationships. Yeah. Now, having said that, my own new views may be dated because I retired 7-8 years ago and the policy may have changed. But let me put some facts on ground. The insurance, which is the largest amount, is bulk, which is under the Army Group Insurance Fund, which is 1 crore for officers, is divided invariably equally among the mother and the wife. In this case also it has been done. 50 lakhs was given to the mother on 31st of August, I'm told, and also 50 lakhs were given to the wife. So that's one part of the issue. Second is the balance of emoluments. Now, the Provident Fund. As you rightly pointed out, the Provident Fund, the officer needs to nominate. There's a nomination issue. You can nominate Provident Fund 50-50, 30-70, or whatever he wishes to do so. So, Provident Fund is as per the nomination that the officer has given, and so is the other many emoluments which officers has nominated. And that nomination stands up hereafter. I am not very sure in the particular case the Provident Fund has gone to the mother or the wife, because I do not know what has been endorsed in the Provident Fund documents of the office. Since they were married for only 5 months, it's well nigh possible that he has not been able to change the Provident Fund and it could go to his parents still. So I am not venturing a guess into where the money has gone. Then there are issues about death cum retirement gratuity and many other emoluments which are divisible, and it can be divided as per retirement, as per requirement, and as per rulings laid down. The rulings are not laid down by the Army Act. The rulings on pensions and all other issues are laid down by the DOPT and a department under the DOP called Department of Pension and Pension Grievances. And anybody who's aggrieved can put his or her request in the Prime Minister's portal, which deals with this issue, on which actions are taken immediately. So that the system exists on this issue here. Then the state governments, depending on which state government has got how much funds and what they are wanting to give, gives out some funds. In this particular case, I'm told UP government did give 50 lakhs, of which, again, I'm not very sure, but my knowledge is 15 lakhs were given to the mother and 35 lakhs were given to the wife. Now, all this is all about emoluments. The basic question comes in the pension. Now, the pension takes quite some time. The pensions are very varied affairs. There are ordinary pensions, there is special pension, there is liberal pension. Since this is a battle casualty, it requires the battle casualty to be declared as battle casualty by the government of India. It goes to a procedural system for declaration. So initial pension will be ordinary pension given to the lady. And ordinary pension, as you're aware, is 30%. So, she will be getting a family pension of 30% of the emoluments drawn by the officer at the time of his demise. And subsequently, when the battle casualty declared, she could get 60% or 100%. Now, there may be a issue here as to whether pension is divisible. I'm not very sure of the latest orders on the subject, but there was a Supreme Court ruling given out by a two-judge bench in 2016. That's my time when I was in chair. If I'm correctly, and Justice Dave and Justice Nageshwar Rao, in which they had overturned a ruling given by the Punjab and High Court, which had divided the pension into two parts. And they said that while all other assets are divisible among the other claimants, pension is a right of the lady, of the widow, or the widower, and that should be given as such. So last I know, this Supreme Court ruling stands, and this was a two-judge bench. So it becomes the kind of authority to follow till the time legislature decides to overrule the Supreme Court ruling and devises something else. So as it stands, the pension is the right of the lady, as per my information of what I know from 2016 onwards. And this thing doesn't seem to have been revised because it's not in the news media you followed. So that's a broad policy on the issue here. It's to say that the parents have not got anything is not right. I think that is generically said.
Right.
But as you know, and I finish here, the Army Group Insurance Fund is absolutely clear, and they do strict work. On 31st of August, they had given 50 lakhs to the mother.
General Sharma, thank you for illuminating those questions that we had on the pensions and especially the compensation that's given to our fallen soldiers. But in this case, Captain Anshuman Singh's parents have asked a very specific request to the defense minister. They said that the NOK rules, the next of kin rules, which refer to a person's spouse and relatives, that needs to be modified to include the parents. Do you think there is need to do that, or is the system good as it stands today?
Look, no system can satisfy anybody or everybody.
Right.
You make a rule like this, the spouse would be in 50s, and the parents would still be alive. And the spouse is in 50s, they could be having 2 kids also. Right. So the kids have also got entitlement. This is not a simplicity. We are referring to a case in which the lady is young, just been married. And, then the rules are also applicable across the board to the entire government here. They are not specific rules for the armed forces here. The rules are made by the pensions and pension given to the DOPT. So while we can say Ministry of Defense should work with it, but, these are, and there are a whole lot of court cases on these issues on and on, all over India on division of money that is allowed to them.
Right.
I think, we should be prudent in making hasty judgments and say, no, what should be done or should not be done, because these are very singular, difficult matters, and they need to be resolved into great amount of prudence.
Absolutely, great amount of prudence. And I want to bring in my colleague Samar Singh, who's been listening to us very quietly. But Samar, you're a Kargil veteran, and Kargil was literally the first war where you saw a large amount of compensations given to our fallen soldiers. I mean, the extraordinary war, the kind of courage that our soldiers have displayed, over 500 battle casualties.
Yes,
but that was also the first time that you had families receiving very large amounts of compensations, and there were a lot of complaints at that time where wives of fallen soldiers were not given their benefits. Just tell us what that thing was like back in 25 years back.
Absolutely. Sandeep, it was not only in Kargil. In fact, we have been listening to stories of 1971 war as well.
Right.
Because we have seen many cases in our family and close friends also. In Kargil, yes, after a gap of say more than 30 years, we saw it again.
Yes.
These kind of cases have been coming up in between. And after Kargil also they have been coming up. But yes, there was a case of more than 500 deaths.
Right.
And first time probably media coverage was at such a large scale.
The media spotlight was
Yes,
on the
that was on.
conflict. And
Now my question is, and I'm still confused, why after so many years of almost a quarter of decade,
yes.
why we are not able to solve such a critical thing wherein the reputation of army is at stake.
Right.
These are quite sensitive matters
Yes.
when we talk about Indian population, because we are very emotional and sensitive about when we talk about army or
Yes.
army casualties.
Yes.
Things are legally, maybe they might be clear legally
Right.
to legal experts, but when we talk about soldiers,
Yes.
more than 75% of casualties are of the people who are below 30 years of age.
Yes.
When they die, they leave behind almost illiterate or semi-illiterate parents
Right.
and young widows.
Yes.
It is very difficult to go in all the corners of India in small villages
Yes.
and talk to these guys
Right.
and to ascertain that everything is sorted.
Yes.
It is very difficult. It may not be an easy solution, but we cannot say that it is impossible. This should have been sorted. There should have been tribunals formed or some kind of committees formed who should have people who should have erased these kind of complaints
Right.
for future.
Right. Let's just important point there, Sama, that you raised, that complaints. Of course, as General Sharma said, you cannot satisfy everyone. But General Sharma, you also received a number of such cases when you were the Adjutant General of the Indian Army. How did you resolve it? What were the bulk of the cases of the compensation and how it was to be divided among parents and the wives, the spouses of our fallen soldiers? What were the cases like?
So, firstly, what the Flight Lieutenant said, it's not Army alone, it's equally applicable to Air Force and the Navy. So, let's not take Army as isolate them out as if they are singular people.
Yes.
It is similarly for the others. Now, having said that, to say that there are no systems, I think this is absolutely wrong. In 71 war is a different issue when there was no insurance in the government of India.
Yes.
That's why the Army, Navy and the Air Force decided to make their own insurance companies, agencies, and in 1976-78, and they established their own insurance departments. And it is because the insurance companies refused to insure war or wartime like incidents.
Right.
So after that, there is a system. If we are dividing insurance immediately, which is within the army. I mean, firstly, that's our own money. The government has nothing to do with this. So talk about government money separately. Our own money is absolutely divisible and given out within 7 to 10 days or within a month to the mother and to the wife. So there is one part of the story gone, which is 50 lakhs in this case for both the
Yes.
people. Let's say it's not a small sum. Second is the issue of pension. Now see, the pensions are a different matter altogether. Pensions are as and any other government funds that you get are actually government funds, and those are government orders. When I was handling the issue, I cannot devise my own orders.
Yes.
The order, the pension is a regulation. Pensions are, regular meetings held on pension issues with various people. People put complaints on pension in the Pragati portal, which belongs to the Prime Minister's office, for which we have to reply back within 6 weeks. So all complaints of pensions are held within 6 weeks in the Pragati portal of the Prime Minister. And they are serious issues here. As per rules, you just cannot deviate, because finally it is a lot authorized by Government of India, the Ministry of Defence Finance, and of PCDA pension. So PCDA pension, everybody reads the government rules laid down. And you say that the government rules have not been devised with great amount of sense and understanding and through legal provisions. That is not right. I think that's granted to the government that they have worked on it in sufficient amount of detail. Now, if you say that the pension, the only thing is issue is pension. All other properties that a man could have,
Yes.
like the properties are divisible. They can go to They are divided and it mutually decided, okay, he has a car, he has a house. All these are divisible issues. We are talking, and the court ruling says so, that other than the pension, everything else is divisible. But the pension, they say, is not divisible. It is goes to the spouse, which is a widow and the widower. How much has been divided, in this particular case, we do not know. I can get a card, every time it happens, before the lady goes for the award in the Rashtrapati Bhavan, the total entitlement to the lady and the parents are worked out and available with the army. You can check with the army as to give you what are the entitlement given to each one of them. Like, for example, it's possible that the provident fund he had nomination of the mother and would have gone totally to the mother and nothing to the wife. It's all possible, and such things happen. Let's grant it to those people that they are people, men in uniform of wisdom, who are seized of the matter, and to say that things are being delayed is absolutely wrong. It's full-time work on a battle casualty within the departments to make sure that the money is given, the AWA funds, the for the cremation, everything works as clockwork. We can understand. We used to have 200 battle casualties a year.
Yes.
Is it one casualty? It's a routine issue. And for last 30, 40 years, we have been going through this thing. It's not Kargil alone. What about from 1990 onwards?
Right.
And right till date? So, we have thousands of people who have passed away. And, is there a mass movement saying that we are not doing justice? I think we should not exaggerate issues here.
No, absolutely. And, thank you for clearing the air on that one, General Sharma. The fact is that, at the end of the day, Samar, we must admit to the fact that India looks after its veterans in a way that no other country possibly
Absolutely.
on earth does so. Because, in the US, General Sharma, you've traveled that, you've seen this yourself. You have homeless veterans. You have this very horrible thing of, homeless veterans. Whereas I don't think that's ever happened in India, that the system,
We have veterans directorates, we have a
Yes.
veteran directorates, and the Air Force and the Army and fantastic veteran directorate do very good work on their own into getting. In fact, in our veteran directorate, there is a widows cell which
Yes.
is manned by widows. There are 10, 12 of them who are only listening to widows' complaints all over India, and there is a call center type established in this thing for widows. So, to say that the serving establishment is not doing is not right.
It's not right, but then there are, as you said, you cannot satisfy everyone. There would always be complaints, and especially in this case, it's a very emotive issue. Your parents have lost a child, a wife has lost her husband, and the circumstances of this, the bravery that's involved. It's the only force, possibly the armed forces, which call on a soldier to lay down their lives in the line of duty. No other government service, does that, and that explains the sentiments that are attached to this. Price on a soldier's life cannot be put. It's absolutely beyond us to do that. But for the soldiers who do so, it is for the government to look after their families as best as they can. Thank you very much, General Sharma, for joining us this evening, and my colleague Samar Singh. US President Joe Biden doesn't remember the name of his vice president. He called Kamala Harris Vice President Trump. Well, hold on, there's more. He called Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky as President Putin. His officials were cringing because of the embarrassment, and Democrats are left wondering whether their bumbling presidential candidate could defeat Trump, as the four powers are just piling on. We have some straightforward questions this evening. Question number one: is President Biden mentally fit to contest for re-election in November? It's just 4 months away. Can President Biden's inner ring keep him in a cocoon and shield him from public appointments? Question number three: who are the other probable candidates for the Democratic Party? Question number four: will Biden admit to his failings and quit to give Democrats a fighting chance before elections? And finally, question number five: is Donald Trump's route to the White House easier with Biden as his opponent? To discuss this, I have with me this evening Ambassador Jayant Dasgupta and my colleague Justin Thomas here in the studio. Ambassador Dasgupta, I wonder if you saw those clips coming out of the United States. Absolutely horrific. President Biden calling Vice President Kamala Harris Donald Trump, and Ukraine's President Zelensky Vladimir Putin. I'm sure they dismissed it off as a joke, which they did, but the damage has been done, you think, Ambassador Dasgupta. Tell us, you think that President Biden is mentally fit to contest re-elections just 4 months from now?
Well, that's a very difficult question, and I think there are two aspects to this. The first one is about something which President Trump also mentioned in the course of his debate, or before that. I think he had suggested that President Biden should take a cognitive test, whether his mental faculties are all there in place or not. So that is something which President Biden will have to take a call on. And the House chairperson, Nancy Pelosi, has also mentioned that President Biden has to take this call, not about the cognitive test, but about whether to step down or whether to carry on sooner rather than later. And there is a Democrat from Vermont, Welch,
Yes.
who's openly called out for President Biden to step down. Now, the other aspect of this whole issue is if President Biden is persuaded to step down and indeed does so, then who will be the replacement? And can the replacement garner an equal number of votes and also support from the campaign funders? And whether that candidate will pose an equal challenge, if not a greater challenge to President Trump.
Right.
These are the two questions which are being faced by the Democrats.
Yes, and Justin, you've been tracking the US elections very closely. Do you believe that President Biden's ring of his relatives, his wife, his close advisors who've been with him for decades, they can kind of protect him from what's going on right now, or it's over now?
I think if you see the situation that Trump and his advisors, Biden and his advisors are facing, is where he has to be given cue cards where he has to tell you have to move forward.
Yes.
You have to say these two words.
And he reads out those instructions
exactly.
as well.
And he moves back.
Yes.
So that's how bad the situation is for the circle around him. And they have tried their best, but being a US president, you need to at some point of time be in front of the press, in meetings, gathering people, meet your closest aides, your donors and all. I mean, if you are forgetful about your donors who are contributing to your campaign, how do you think the reactions are going to be? It's a very difficult situation that his team is in.
Lots of luck in your final year, as he frequently says. But Ambassador Dasgupta, who are the probable candidates now for the Democratic Party? They're literally left with no time, less than 4 months. It's just literally, you can count the US election date, November 4th, in a matter of days now. Who are the probable candidates to replace President Biden in case he makes that move to step down?
The first one name which comes to mind is of Vice President Kamala Harris, but she doesn't enjoy a very good support base amongst the House representatives as well as in the Senate. So she will be a long shot. That said, there could be other, governors, for instance, Democratic governors in different states. Nancy Pelosi, if she is willing to, throw her hat in the ring, she could be another candidate. And I may make a very wild guess. Hillary Clinton could be a very good choice, perhaps, if she agrees, though it is very late in the day for her to
her cognitive abilities will have to be also checked.
Right. Hillary Clinton, interesting name there, Justin, from Ambassador Dasgupta. You think it's too late in the day for Hillary Clinton, or she sees this ship sinking, it's a Titanic thing, there's no point in rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic?
I think Hillary faced a similar issue when she was on the Democratic ticket about her cognitive abilities in 2016.
Right.
So really
it's
no
a long
chance.
Time ago.
But I think Kamala Harris in itself is a problematic for Democrat because choosing any candidate over her, she's the lady candidate, a black woman. So these two are, these are vote for Democrats, clear vote segments for constituencies for
and
them.
Also person of Indian origin.
Exactly, person of Indian origin. So that is again a big challenge for the Democrats to select a candidate beyond
Absolutely,
Biden.
the big challenge there. But Ambassador Dasgupta, do you think that President Biden will actually admit to his failings and do the right thing and step down like Lyndon B. Johnson did in 1968? You see that happening?
It's a very difficult question. It depends entirely on President Biden and his close circle of advisors, including his wife. But I think if his cognitive abilities are not up to the mark, and they don't seem to be so, then I think it would be in the fitness of things for him to step down.
Yes, yes. And so far, it doesn't look like that's happening, Justin. That everyone's urging him to do the right thing, including George Clooney, who came out with a very, very, extreme editorial saying, I love you, President Biden, but not as the next president.
Yes, so the Democrats themselves, Biden himself, they don't really have a big choice because you need to campaign, you need to hit the road,
Yes.
you need to do a lot of things. It's just not.
It's a very physically intense.
Exactly. So
act,
having Biden himself making the choice, who made it clear a couple of weeks back that I'm not stepping down, but then again it goes around. It's a vicious cycle for them.
It's a vicious cycle indeed, and it's the choice is actually literally for the United States now is that they're caught between a rock and a hard place. Speaking of the hard place, Ambassador Dasgupta, do you think President Biden's troubles make it easier for Donald Trump to enter the White House as is being predicted?
Yes, I think it makes it easier in the election process. But of course, there is this large overhang of the conviction, the felony convictions that
Yes.
he has been, facing. So one doesn't know. The American system, we don't understand it very clearly. The Supreme Court has given a certain ruling. So that has, I think, delayed the sentencing part
Yes.
in that conviction. So one doesn't know whether it will have any impact on the minds of the voters, and if so, people who are sitting on the fence, really speaking, whether they will get swayed and vote for the Democrats, irrespective of who the candidate is, or they will, the diehard supporters of President Trump will carry on regardless and vote for him.
Right, that's
We
what
could-
it looks
we
like.
could pull a Kejriwal act out.
Yes,
by Trump.
because
Because that's allowed. I mean,
in the realm of
in the
possibility, we've discussed
possibility is
this.
very much
Yes,
there. I
yes,
mean,
yes.
Trump can be a president from the jail.
From prison, and he can continue to, they can probably have to rename the prison the White House, or if that's the case. But that's the dilemma facing the United States, the most powerful country on earth, and the candidate for the most powerful office on the planet, the US president. And the 4 months away, you have the elections just 4 months away, and these 5 tough questions are going to be asked repeatedly. But thank you very much for joining us this evening, Ambassador Dasgupta, my colleague Justin Thomas. That's a story that we'll be tracking, you can bet, for the next 4 months. President Biden, will he step down? Won't he step down? Kamal Haasan's much-awaited film Indian 2 has hit the screens. While it's too early to comment on the box office success of the film, what's remarkable is that the filmmakers are still betting on the veteran actor to strike big with both the audiences and critics. Kamal Haasan turns 70 this year. How do you explain the phenomenon called Kamal Haasan? Joining me in this discussion is Lata Srinivasan, film critic, and my colleague Anthony Rosario. Welcome to the News9 Plus show. Anthony, you're just back from the theatre. First impressions of Indian 2. You're the only guy in this building who's seen both Indian 1 and Indian 2.
So when I watched Indian 1, I was like, okay, Indian 1's this film that my late father would just love, right? That is
Right.
the kind of film that...
Before your time,
Yeah,
yes.
before my time. Essentially before my time. And
Yeah.
I was wondering, okay, Indian 2, for Indian 2 to really work now, of course, we'll only get to know about it later.
Yeah.
But for it to really work in terms of a story, it has to really adapt itself to 2024.
Absolutely.
And I think that it has done wonderfully.
It has?
It has done
Oh,
wonderfully.
right.
Again, the main concept, the tenet remains that, okay, this is this anti-corruption crusader called Senapati.
Yes.
Senapati still remains the same person. In
Yes.
fact, supposed to have aged over 27, 28 years, but younger in spirit now.
Right.
But nevertheless, those issues remain. But those issues let's see the issues that they talk about. They talked about corruption in job recruitment, they talk
Right.
about loan apps and this, that.
Yes.
So I think in terms of issues, I think they've more or less adapted to modern day issues that plague common citizens.
Yeah.
And there's also this time the common man, which is I'm forgetting, R.K. Lakshman's Common Man, who's
Yes.
actually features very prominently in a cartoonish format in this
Oh, he
Funny
does?
too. Yeah.
Aam Aadmi.
Aam Aadmi, yeah.
Lata, you watched the movie. You've watched Indian 1 as well. So as you can see, it's made a connect with Gen Y here. Anthony loves the movie. What are your initial reactions on the film? Were you expecting a lot or?
Well, I expected, I have a very different view than Anthony's. I expected, Shankar to adapt the film to 2024. But his core focus is again corruption. And, when I spoke to him, he said, an Indian, he tackles corruption in Tamil Nadu, but
Right.
in Indian too, he tackles corruption across India. I think they had big ambitions,
Right.
but the story, didn't meet those expectations at all.
okay.
And that was quite unfortunate.
Right. I think it's also a reflection of the changing nature of the film business, Lata, from the mid 1990s, when you could make a film like that and only cater to Tamil Nadu, versus 2024, where you have to release your film all over,
Yeah.
across India and in the global box office as well. You have to make a film that resonates with, from Mumbai to Chennai to Kolkata.
I think the focus still largely remains more or less Chennai, but of course they try to make it pan-Indian. Of course,
Right.
when there's a segment where they're trying to call back Senapati, of course I don't want to reveal too much, but then that also has a pan-Indian appeal. So it's not
Right.
limited to Chennai alone. Another thing I found a little interesting, I don't know if I'm giving away too much
Don't
here
give
at
away
this
too much.
point, is that again, we know that Kahani Abhi Bhi Baki Hai.
Yes.
And if the ending is to be believed, then the
Right.
story is still yet to be told.
A Senapati
now
franchise.
there is now an Indian 3, which is supposed to be a lot more spicier, which is going to talk about a lot of other things. So I
Right,
think
right.
in response to ma'am's commentary on the film, I would say probably there's a lot more beyond corruption that could come up in Indian 3.
How interesting.
Yeah.
A Senapati film franchise,
Yeah.
in the works. But Lata, moving on from Indian 2, this phenomenon called Kamal Haasan, who was literally down and out 3 or 4 years back, and he's now staged an astonishing comeback. He's a part of Lokesh Kanagaraj's Loki-verse. He's in Vikram. He's
Kalki?
the main villain in Kalki,
yeah,
which you sat through.
Yeah.
And of course, he's got a number of other movies. He's coming back with Mani Ratnam. He's teaming up with Mani Ratnam after more than 3 decades. What is the secret sauce that Kamal Haasan has been consuming, Lata?
So I think one of the most important aspects about Kamal is that he's he constantly learns. He constantly wants to push his boundaries.
Yes.
And when technical aspects are concerned, he's brilliant
Yes.
because his knowledge of cinema far exceeds than many of the directors or actors that he works with.
Yes.
And I think that is his biggest strength because he knows what is what as far as cinema is concerned. And of course, as an actor, he's undisputed. And I
Yes.
think the same holds for Amitabh Bachchan as well. He's a brilliant actor. And Kamal has adapted with the times.
Yes.
Now many of the roles in his earlier films were far ahead of their times. And even today, what Kamal tries to do is he's 70, but he wants to keep pushing himself. So he wants to do better roles. He doesn't mind aging.
Yes.
When he was 40, he played Senapati, who was 70.
Right.
So I think that's what makes him unique. He doesn't, there's no box you can put him into. And that's what really makes him unique.
Absolutely. There's no box you can put him into. And Anthony, because I've been watching Kamal a lot longer than you have
course,
been,
yeah.
I can tell you that
Yeah.
the man is unputdownable. He would come in, every movie he'd come in a different disguise or a different getup, a different character, especially in the Kamal Haasan's golden age of the 1990s, when you had, of course, Indian was one of them. But the interesting thing about Kamal Haasan is that, as Lata put it, is that he's a student of the craft of filmmaking. He's also a director, he's a script writer. And the ultimate tribute, I think, to Kamal Haasan was, Lata, you'd remember this, when Quentin Tarantino actually took that manga comics kind of thing that he had done for Alavandan, when the,
Right.
the characters thing, when he imagines his flashback, it's all shown like a manga comic strip. Quentin Tarantino used the same format in Kill Bill 1 and 2. And that was, and he said that I
lots to
saw
learn
it
from Kamal
in this
Haasan
thing.
then,
Yeah,
yes.
guy is
Especially how he's
literally a
reinvented
film
himself.
industry, one-man film show. How long do you think Kamal will go on at this pace, Lata? You think you see another Amitabh Bachchan, at who's still going strong at 82?
No, absolutely. I think Kamal will never stop, making cinema till his last breath. I think that's what he lives for. And he came into cinema, you must remember, at the age of 6.
Yes.
So that's all
Kalathur
he's
Kannamma.
ever known. Yes, and that's all he's ever known throughout his life. Cinema
Yes.
has been his life professionally as well as personally. So
Right.
he will never step out of it. Given the fact that he is into politics, even then, his heart is always in cinema. Though he wants to do good for the people, even in Indian too, if you see, there are a lot of political overtones. Cinema is something he will never ever give up. So
Right.
we can see him till the very end on screen.
But the
Ratha-
question then remains that, of course, Indian 1 and Indian 2, there's a vast difference in
Yes.
27, 28 years. How easily will the audience, because the audience
Yes,
has
of
completely
course.
changed,
audience
complete
has
paradigm
changed.
shift.
Right.
How welcoming will the audience be to a person like Kamal Haasan? I'm not taking away
Yes.
the credit that is due to him. But again, times have changed. So I think that's a big question. If we're talking about Kamal Haasan, even beyond this franchise in other
Yes.
roles, then I think that's, of course, I think the interesting thing here would be to see the numbers that this particular movie,
Of
Hindustani
course,
2, makes.
we don't know. It's too early in the
Yeah.
day, but he's definitely made an impression on me. And Lata, we've all got our Kamal Haasan stories. I want you to tell me your favorite Kamal story, and then I'll tell you mine.
Well, actually, there are just too many. But I think the best Kamal story, I think, would possibly come from the fact that his work with K. Balachandar.
Yes.
Balachandar, and he, Kamal said, my father is my guru because he's the one who brought me into cinema.
Right.
But Balachandar molded the person that he,
Yes.
who he is today is because of K. Balachandar. Right?
Right.
He was his mentor, his father in so many
Okay.
ways. I mean, the discipline, what I think, without Balachandar, I don't think there'll be a Kamal Haasan. And to me, that is the strongest relationship between a director. He did 30 odd films with him.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
I think that is who Kamal Haasan is, who he is today because of K. Balachandar. And I think that's very significant.
Absolutely. Kamal Haasan, the actor who's like the
Your favorite
Duracell
moment.
bunny.
You were supposed to tell your favorite.
Yeah, we're completely out of time, but
Okay.
I'll quickly
No,
tell you
yeah.
that since you wanted it.
Yeah.
Well, many years back, he did this movie called Alavandan.
Right.
At that time, I interviewed him and I asked him that, Kamalji, Hiram is one of my favorite films. I noticed that you used two weapons in that, the Walther and the Mauser, right? Two German weapons. So why did you use them? I mean, because I'm a gun nut, Anthony, not hidden from you.
Yeah, of course.
And his response stunned me. He said that I wanted to show my characters drift fascination with fascism. And these were weapons of the German Empire, Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
These two pistols that he used. ATD, attention to detail. There's a lot Kamal can
has to
teach
give it
you.
to Mr. Haasan.
You have to
Yeah.
give it to him. He is
I
one
hope the
of
box
a kind.
office does-
Truly.
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Thank you very much for joining us this evening, Lata Srinivasan, my colleague, Anthony Rosario, Indian 2, Kamal Rising. We'll be watching that very closely. Thanks for watching.